got Shelby Owens with us this morning, and Shelby's a former. I'll let him talk a little bit about his career in law enforcement, but myself and Eric were fortunate enough to work with Shelby at Dothan PD for several years before he left and took another federal job. But Shelby, man, brother, I'm just glad we ran into you. This guy here, I'm telling you what, he's just a solid dude.
I was about to say solid is the best way.
Just a solid dude, and guys out there in the audience that know, they know.
Real quick story before. So Shelby came back to Abbeville not too long ago. I was captain of the sheriff's office, and I was coming out of my office, and this guy with this big long beard comes walking up, and he's got his long hair, and I'm like, who is this joker right
What does
here?
he want with me?
What in the way? He's walking over. He's like, hey. I was like, and my jaw hit the floor. I was like, Shelby Owens. So anyway, that was funny. You gotten grizzly, man.
Yes, very much so. The area that I live in, very, very rural.
Well, Shelby, tell us, how did you get started in law enforcement, and tell us about your law enforcement career.
Basically, after I was a Marine, and during my Marine Corps enlistment, I saw some Marine MPs, and I thought, those guys are very, very sharp. I'd like to do that. So I got out, tried to get back in, but unfortunately my MOS was in a critical status, so I couldn't go into MPs. They told me I had to go back into the MOS that I was in, so I just went ahead and stayed out and concentrated on trying to get into law enforcement.
Can we ask what the MOS was?
6112. It was a helicopter repairman, and I later became a crew chief.
Okay.
But I used to sit on the barracks second floor and second deck and just watch the MPs as they did their business, and that's like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Well, after that, I stayed out. I started going to Wallace, and in the meantime, I was a reserve deputy for about 9 months, and I was with the current sheriff, Don Valenza. I rode with him, and he taught me quite a bit, and he taught me a lot about officer survival, which I carried till the day I retired. After that, I went with Ozark for a couple of years, and from there I went to the Border Patrol. And I stayed in the Border Patrol almost 6 years. So then later, after the Border Patrol, I came back, Dothan Police Department, and from here I went to actually Farley, Nuclear Plant as a security officer, and from there to the Federal Air Marshal Service.
How long did you spend with the Air Marshals?
17 years.
Yeah, that's a long time flying.
I remember
friendly skies.
I remember when you left to go to the Air Marshal, or go to, when I'd heard you went to Air Marshals, go back to Border Patrol, because we want to lead into something on that. How long? I'm sorry, you said you were 6 years?
Almost 6 years.
Almost
yes.
6 years.
Where on the border were you?
I was on the border between Tijuana and San Diego.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
Pretty active?
Very active.
Very active border crossings there.
Yeah, the Border Patrol, they teach you how to track, because most of the Border Patrol stations are up in the mountains. Mm-hmm. But the station that I was with, the traffic is just so hot and heavy.
Right.
Constantly moving. And you have to be on your toes constantly, because there's a lot of smuggling, a lot of illegal entry. I don't know about now, but there was when I was there at the time.
How long ago was that when you were there?
I was there from 1986 to 90.
Okay, gotcha.
And I may jump
91.
ahead. I may jump ahead of Andy's question here, but one of the things that, when we sat down, Andy comes up and says, "Let's get his take on this, because it's a hotbed topic for me." With everything going on now in that southern border being opened up, give me your thoughts from a former Border Patrol agent on how that's affecting us as a country right now.
Yeah.
From my perspective, the border is wide open. People that we don't know are coming through. People that have no background investigations are coming through. Our enemies are coming through.
And you're not talking just people from Mexico, Central America, and South America.
No. I've apprehended people from Switzerland before. Iran,
Oh wow,
Iraq,
Switzerland.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
And this was prior
all
to,
manner of countries.
And this was back.
This is pre 9/11,
then,
what's going on now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those types of individuals were coming then.
Right.
Much less now.
Also, what we have to deal with is Mexico's got a very large population of Chinese Mexicans, and they were coming over too at the time. They speak fluent Spanish,
Right.
And I'm sure they also speak whatever
Mandarin
language,
Chinese or
Mandarin,
whatever.
yeah,
You know.
whatever
It's hard to tell the
language that is.
difference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To me, it is.
Right.
And it's just they're all coming through, and there's absolutely we don't know. We just don't know.
Well, tell us. Okay, looking back to your time in Border Patrol, and this was pre-DHS. Border Patrol was its own entity, its own organization. They were under DOJ, right? Back
It was,
then,
as a matter of
Department
fact, it was
Justice.
attached to the Immigration and Naturalization Service.
Right,
at the
INS,
time.
the old INS, right. Tell us at the time, what were your standing orders as a Border Patrol agent? What were your standing orders then? What tactics did they want you to use? What were you told to do? What was your job basically on the border?
Our job was basically a routine job, just exactly what we went to the academy for. Apprehend illegals, speak to them in Spanish, apprehend smugglers, apprehend foot smugglers as well as traffic smugglers, in vehicles. It's just basically a routine job, just like a police officer does out
Okay.
here in the streets.
Was it commonplace then to just let people go and go ahead and enter into the United States without them trying to claim asylum and going actually through an asylum process?
Well, they all had, other than Mexicans,
Right.
when we apprehended people from Mexico, they were given an opportunity to either have a deportation process or return voluntarily. And almost 99.9% return voluntarily because they could come right back in.
Is there a certain number of times that you would take somebody back over, or does it?
Well, it would change because you could get the same individual 10 times.
Well,
and
the
each
reason I
probably had
ask
5
is-
different names.
Okay. Well, the reason I ask is I had spoken with the Border Patrol a while back, and they said that there was a certain number of times that you would deport somebody back over before criminal
A
enforcement.
deportation process, yes, it is different.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Voluntary return, they just sign a paper and they go right back over. A deportation process, you get held, your paperwork's processed, and then you have to go through the court system.
How long would that take for one individual?
It depends. It depends on just the docket, whatever docket they have.
And if you voluntarily went back, then you move on down the border a
Yeah,
little bit.
we'd
and
catch
cross
them at
again.
night,
again.
then return them in the morning.
Right. But now, from everything we're seeing now, I think the process is they're just turning people loose into the United States. They don't know truly who these people are.
No, they don't.
They're given these addresses that they're supposed to be at. There's no way to track these people within the borders of the United States. I mean, and the federal government's job in the Constitution, the federal government's job is to defend the borders.
Yes, it is.
And I'm proud to see some governors, like Governor Abbott down in Texas. The federal government is not doing their job protecting our border with Mexico, our southern border. So Governor Abbott has his state people down there, DPS, Texas Rangers, local and state personnel, plus National Guard. And there's even been some National Guard and some troopers and all, I know from Florida, have been sent down to the southern border to help. But I'm proud to see like Governor Abbott taking a stance on if the federal government is not going to protect this border, then we as the state of Texas are going to protect this border.
That's exactly right. And if it's not the federal government, then who?
Exactly.
If they have the responsibility to do what they're supposed to be doing as far as apprehensions and arrests, nobody else. They say nobody else can do it, but people's lives are in danger.
Exactly.
Well, you just said
border
something.
areas.
People's lives are in danger. It's right now estimated. Again, I'm going into an estimation. I don't think that they actually know how many have come over, but there's an estimated 8 million plus. In recent time have come over. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And we don't know what kind of background these people have.
Exactly.
You can't tell me that all 8 million plus that have come over just want to
Come to work.
Yeah, come to work. That's not what's going on. To me, it looks like an invasion is what it looks like, because I'm pretty sure that out of that 8+ million, there's some pretty nefarious characters that have been infiltrated in there.
Yeah. Well, just if 1/2 of 1%, even if 1/100th of 1% of that 8 million coming across have nefarious plans and they're terrorists, then look what we have in our nation that we should have kept out.
Well, the bottom line on this is, you said it, nobody knows, and that's basically the bottom line.
And again, that 8 million, that's just, again, one of the things that I heard on one of my news feeds. I don't have anything to back that number up, but it sounds feasible to me, especially with it being as wide open as it is. And okay, so from your time when you were doing it, and I'm sure you probably have some friends that you still may keep up with in that arena. With your time doing it, it was probably crazy, you know, the crossings that you would see then. Compare that to what you know or what you believe is going on now. I mean, obviously it's gotten worse.
It has gotten worse. When I was doing the job, it was dangerous, very, very heavy traffic. But now it's even hard to put a number on it. It's just that dangerous.
You know,
Do you think that there's any way we could fix that now, or do you think it's gone over the edge at this point, and there's no return?
Well, I'm about to say something that's going to probably make people angry.
Say it.
say it. We don't care here, okay?
If this country were to pass some type of law that would not allow these people to be here, if they can't get a job, if they can't get any sort of whatever benefit they're getting right here, right now, and they pass a law that said you can't get that benefit, I've heard politicians say that, well, we can't deport that many. Well, they'll deport themselves. I've seen it. Mm-hmm. They'll deport themselves and they'll go back on their own. They won't have to deport anybody.
Gotcha. So it's like crank down on the law.
Exactly. Just do what.
Don't
just
we already
enforce
have
the laws
that
that you
law
already
in
have?
place?
Enforce the laws you already have, and these folks will deport themselves.
It's kind of like more gun control. We don't need more gun control laws. We need to enforce the ones that are already there. Last time I checked, you know, we talk about gun violence. I know we're getting off on another ticket here, but we talk about gun violence. If I'm not mistaken, all 50 states, it's illegal to commit murder, right?
Correct.
If we started enforcing,
Even in the territories.
even if if we started enforcing the laws that are already on the books, you don't need another gun control law.
Actually, there are some worthless gun control laws on the books that don't need to be enforced.
Don't need
Yeah,
to
I've
be
been
there,
hearing
yeah.
about some of them.
You know, that are I believe are in direct violation of the
But
Constitution.
going to what you
especially
said,
administrative ones.
you said if we come up with a law, those laws are already in place. I know you're being facetious and sarcastic in a way. Let's start enforcing it. Instead of letting these people go, let's start enforcing it.
Yeah, hire border patrol agents and put them on the border to do their job to
Exactly.
keep illegals out of this country.
Empower them to do their job.
If people want to come into the United States, let them do it the right way and pursue a path to citizenship. There is a path to citizenship in the United States if you want to be an American citizen. There's a path, even if you went through the process to get an alien card, or what they used to call a green card. Have an alien card here where you can actually be authorized to work. But we need to know your true identity before they issue that alien card.
Right.
You know, so that we can know who you are.
No, don't get me wrong. I'm not opposed to anyone coming into this country. Absolutely not. I get it. To this day, even with all the problems we have, this is the best country in the world.
Absolutely.
And I agree with that. I love this country. I'm patriotic all the way. I'm pro, like you said, take the right path to become a citizen. Be in the country legally. Be in this country with the intention of bettering your life, not with the intention of A, sucking up the resources, and B, potentially harming the country through some form of terroristic activity.
Yep.
Yeah. What would you say to people that are like, well, you know, my family's Mexican and we came over, but we just don't have the ability to become citizens. You know, like we just don't have the funds or whatever. I don't know what it takes, to be honest, but what would you say to that? Because I'm sure somebody said it before I've heard it, I think.
Well, the unfortunate thing is people doing it the lawful, correct way, it's taking them years to be able to do it properly. It's very expensive, and there's a waiting line. Well, these folks that are doing it properly, lawfully, are on the back burner right now. And the people that are in here illegally, they're actually being paid. They're not dishing out their own money. They're being paid to stay here.
Right. Wow. So the answer is, if you focus on the people that are trying to legally become citizens, then possibly, or even you're saying it would, that those people that are illegal would just phase out.
Oh yeah,
because
just read your papers. You know, whatever news outlet you want to go to. These folks are being paid. That's bottom line. They're being paid to stay here, and the people that are doing it lawfully are on the back burner.
Being paid by who?
Government.
Our
tax dollars.
I'm going to press into it, probably maybe a conspiracy theory, but why do you think they're being paid to stay? And what do you think the gain is for the current political party that is the presidency or whatever is going on in the government? What do you think the gain is for them to have these illegal people over here? Like, why are they doing that? They're doing the exact opposite.
This is my opinion. These folks that are coming over are very poor people. And they're paying them to stay here. So the gain for them is whatever political party is pushing for them to stay here, that political party, I believe, or it's my opinion, they'd stand to gain votes.
Yeah, they're going to register them to vote whether they're legals or not.
Exactly.
Right, and that was my thinking. I just wasn't, I was like,
That's
well,
what I
is this
think. That's
really,
my opinion.
Yeah, could that be
yeah.
Well,
possible?
since we're talking opinion, I think you have another subcategory in there too. You can hide the amount of people that are coming over right now. You can hide other elements in that. You can almost hide them in plain sight. And I'm big on the fact that I believe whatever group, but terroristic groups are coming through. They're hiding in amongst the masses, and I believe that they're being brought over here. You guys wait, y'all. I'm telling you, it's coming. They've already sat there and said it's coming. You have cells inside this country that are asleep right now, and I mean, asleep is not really the right term.
They're in waiting.
They're in waiting.
Yep, exactly.
They're in waiting to be activated, and they have come across that southern border untouched, unlooked at, with absolutely, we don't know how many are here right now.
Well, I mean, you've got the Middle East. The Iranians are the ones that are really pushing. You got, all your Hezbollah. Got all those terrorists coming in, the Islamic terrorists coming in, and then on the other hand, you got the Chinese, and China is trying to destroy the United States from within. And China, every bit of the fentanyl production is originating in China. China produces all of the precursor chemicals to make fentanyl with. It's being brought into Mexico, and the Mexican government, Chinese government, we're trying to do everything we can to stop it. The Chinese are liars. I mean, they're liars. The Mexican government, for the most part, is 100% totally corrupt and controlled by the drug cartels. So they're trying to destroy the United States. The thing about it is people would love to have our way of life, but on the other hand, they're very jealous of the American way of life also, and they seek to destroy it.
I saw something the other day, something I didn't know. I didn't realize that China has almost cornered the market on lithium.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All your lithium batteries, for everything are manufactured in China. I mean, maybe I should have, but I just didn't know that. I mean, that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's just add it to the list of things manufactured in China, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you something interesting to go look and watch. Eric Prince, who was the founder of Blackwater, he's a former SEAL. Eric Prince has got a podcast now called Unleashed. If you go in there and listen to Unleashed podcast, and there's a certain podcast on there where he explains everything to do with China, pretty much, and how China is just going out into the ocean and dredging sand and building islands in the middle of the ocean.
Really?
And then they're claiming it as Chinese territory to extend their territorial waters.
Really?
Out, yeah. But Eric Prince, he goes back and he goes all the way back to the Boxer Rebellion in China. He explained he's a really great history guy as far as military and political history in the world. But check out that Eric Prince podcast. So it's called Unleashed. But there's a really great segment on China and how they're trying to take over that part of the world and the whole world, and especially Taiwan.
They sure own a lot of property over here in the United States,
especially
now.
Taiwan. So. No foreign entity, no foreign country, or no foreign company should be allowed to possess land or assets in the United States of America, in my opinion.
Right.
I agree 100% with that.
And people are selling their land. I mean, the thing about it is, and people, people are let's just call it what it is greed, because they're offering so much money, and these people are selling their land. They're selling different production facilities or whatever. People are selling out to China, and it's all because of money. It's all
as
because
the
of
leadership
greed.
goes, so goes, right?
Exactly.
and if they're selling out for voters, that's the whole. Everybody else is going to be like, well, I'm going to get a cut of this too.
That seems to be the theme these days. Huh?
Yeah, sell out. So I'm sure Shelby, you would agree with this, but not just agree, but I'm sure you have thoughts on this, how we should respond as Christians to the crisis, the Border Patrol crisis.
I think Shelby's sitting over there right now going, what have I sat down into?
This is a lot. But how we should respond as Christians, there's our duty as Americans, there's our duty as Christians, as Christian Americans, really in all of it is first comes Jesus, right? And then comes everything else after that. And so with that, how should we respond to people that we know probably are illegal, or when we see these things, when we hear these things, you see this going on, how have you responded? I'll even ask, like what you think is best.
As Christians, the Bible tells us, as a human being, there's no documentation for being a human being.
Right.
And as Christians, we're supposed to help everyone.
Right.
No matter what.
Right.
That's our mandate through Jesus Christ, is to help everyone. So as Christians, I don't think if we follow God's word, we should do exactly that, help people, regardless of whether they're illegal. It also says, take your ministry to the prisons. You take your ministry to the prisons. You help everyone, regardless. And that's your mandate, politics aside.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
That's what our mandate is.
But I think you look back into the Old Testament too, and there's also many, many stories of where God supported Israel from repelling invaders also.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I was about to say, I don't.
That's true.
I hear what you're saying.
It's a double-edged sword, and
It is.
Just say, as a law enforcement officer, you can do your job as a law enforcement officer and enforce the law
With compassion.
and also be a minister of God to thee for good. Just like I say, Romans 13:4, the very first part of that verse says, for he is the minister of God to thee for good. And that is most of the time our biggest part of the job. It's not as much bearing the sword as it is being a minister of God to thee for good. Yeah. So you can do both of those. You can be compassionate to someone and take someone to jail.
Yeah.
You can use that enforcement activity or that interaction with someone, even if they're a criminal or even if they're a good person, and you can use that also as a ministry and an opportunity to minister to someone and to help them, even if you can't help them, direct them to another organization that can.
I'm going to quote what you said on a previous podcast, which is your job as law enforcement is to help people find the help they need.
Exactly.
Right. And so whether it be an illegal immigrant, whatever is going on in that moment, you've got to do what it takes in order to help people find the help they need.
You got and people don't realize this too. When you're talking about the border down there, they're talking about these people coming across the border. They have committed a crime. They are a criminal just by crossing that border without permission from the United States of America.
Exactly.
Without permission of the government.
Right.
That in itself makes them a criminal. Are all illegal immigrants dangerous people? No. Okay. But then you got this other crowd that are illegal immigrants that have nefarious intentions to either import drugs into the United States of America, to
Human
traffic
trafficking,
humans into the United
child
States
sex
of America,
trafficking,
terrorism, whatever the case may be.
Can I make a parallel real quick?
Sure.
I just thought about this.
Sure.
This is weird. I don't know. This could be totally off base.
Just say it, Thomas. Come on.
But I'm seeing the difference between, or the same thing between, like people that say they're Christians and aren't, and those that are actually followers of Christ. Like separating the wheat from the tares, right? They're all mixed together. They like infiltrate.
Yeah, got to separate the chaff.
Yeah, like it's like these illegal immigrants in the kingdom of God, right? In a way, and where God one day is going to separate them out. It's like we're seeing sort of like a physical manifestation of this spiritual thing where like good and evil mix together, and someone has to separate them. We're seeing the need for that so desperately, and it just goes to show how awful it is when there are those mixed into the body of Christ that are there in name only,
right,
but not in actual fellowship servanthood to the Lord. It shows the how awful it can be, how dangerous that can be. But the Bible also says it's for God to separate, but for ministers of good in the
He uses us.
He uses us to do that
separation.
As well. Yeah, and in the end, all things will be made right. Right.
I want to go back to Shelby, the question you asked you. How do you feel about dealing with that situation? Now, granted, you come across somebody, it's a mother, and 2 kids, and they literally just want to better their lives, okay, and they cross illegally, you're going to show that person compassion. You still have a job you have to do. You believe very much in law enforcement. I know that. I mean, you wouldn't have done it as long as you did. And having worked alongside of you, you believed in doing it with integrity. I saw that every time we worked together.
Definitely.
I learned a lot from you, whether you know it or not. But I would also say that, okay, so to answer your question, we need to look at it from what's the intent of that person that's come across. Okay, so how do your question to him was, if I'm getting it right, how do you deal with that? How do you look at that from a Christian standpoint? I still think, even as a Christian, we still have a responsibility, for the protection of what we have.
Yeah, we abide by the law of the land. I mean,
have to abide
the
by
Bible's clear about that.
And it comes down to a safety issue at that point. We're letting people in that want to destroy this country. Now, we're going to sit there and turn everybody away? No, I get it. I think that's why we have the process of legalization through the right process, okay? Expound on that if you don't mind. You believe in what the Border Patrol stands for, right?
I do.
You believe that we should have
mission.
Do you believe we should have a closed border?
Absolutely. Well, it should be closed for the amount of time it takes to clean up the mess that they have.
Wow, that's an answer I've not heard before.
It's going to take a while.
It is. So it'll take a long while because politicians have their fingers stuck in it. There's no telling what kind of corruption's involved. In my opinion, the countries that these people are coming from bear a great responsibility for the problem that we're having as well. If they're doing right by their people, then the people don't need to
leave.
have,
I'm
come over here.
gonna put everybody on the spot right now because of what you just said. It may you may not want to answer it, whatever. Do you think it's planned? Do you think it's planned by other countries and an external outside source?
Every individual, law enforcement, military, who's ever had any kind of time of duty in service, training, whatever, I believe they know that something's going on. It takes planning when you do law enforcement duties. It takes planning when you do military duties. And
Takes planning to commit an act of terrorism.
takes planning to commit an act of terrorism. And also, how should I put this? It's almost like they're being facilitated to make it easy for them to do what they got to do.
There's no doubt in my mind that there's a concerted effort to destroy the United States of America, as well as there's a concerted effort to destroy the nation of Israel.
Yeah.
Also, and I think America, and I mean this is why America should always stand with Israel. I mean it's biblically mandated, for those that bless Israel will be blessed, and those that curse Israel will be cursed. But the U.S. needs to make sure that we stand with Israel, because sometimes you look at it, Israel is one of our only and strongest allies also. But there's a lot of nations throughout the world, even as much money and support, either on the civilian side or the military side, that we give countries across this world. So many of them are still our enemies.
When somebody says they're going to destroy our nation, regardless of what country it is, how many times does it take for them to say they're going to destroy us before somebody believes them?
Yeah, take them seriously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
It's not. These are not
whether
only.
whether you're a politician or any of the three-letter agencies of military. How many times does it take for a threat to become real?
Yeah, because these are
in their minds.
I mean that's truly thought provoking. It really is.
Oh, yeah.
If you think about it.
Well, these are not veiled threats. This is not.
No.
This is
don't
not
think so.
some country on Facebook saying we're going to destroy the United States. Some veiled threat on Facebook
they have
or whatever.
like
I mean,
holidays.
they're committing overt acts. They're not only saying they're going to do it, but they're committing overt acts
And
to
I go back-
absolutely do it.
I go back to what I said though. How many people are, or I say people, how many? You called them sleeping, well, not sleeping. You called them waiting.
Yeah.
The waiting cells are they're ready to do their strike.
Just 9/11, same thing.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like how many times in your lifetime have you heard, well, this is a quiet place. Something like that doesn't happen here until it does.
Until it does.
That's right. Yeah.
Nowhere in the United States of America is immune to any crime or any acts of terrorism at all.
No, I think the next, personally, and I have nothing to, other than I'm telling you, the next few rounds of attacks that are going to come, you know that. It's going to happen. I think they're going to come to areas that are maybe not the big metropolises.
Well, you asked me if there was a plan. What's it going to take? You've got an open border, people that we don't know are coming in, almost as if they're being facilitated, allowed to do what they're going to do so that they can take our rights away by declaring martial law.
Right.
Taking rights away, Fourth Amendment, Second Amendment, First.
All in the name of public safety.
All in the name of public safety.
Well, a lot of people, just like Benjamin Franklin said, and sometimes what Benjamin Franklin said, if you look back historically, what he was actually talking about, it's kind of taken out of context. But so many people are willing to trade freedom for security. But if you don't have freedom, in my opinion, a lot of other people's opinion too, without freedom, you have no security.
How did he actually say it? I would rather take dangerous freedom than, I don't remember, I can't quote it, but basically the same thing you're saying. I'd rather have my freedom
Than live on my knees.
With the government providing my security.
Right.
So
Yeah. And it sounds like a Trojan horse. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I think we're all very concerned because it's history repeats itself. People aren't stupid. It's a Trojan horse.
Well, also, in the bigger cities, whether they're democratically controlled or Republican controls them, there seems to be a tendency for law enforcement and prosecutors to prosecute the people that are defending themselves in a case that's clearly a defendable position.
seen that quite a bit lately.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like they're trying to scare the armed citizen from defending themselves.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And allowing the criminals to run amok. So,
Well, understanding the process, you know this as well as I do. Anytime you have that use of force, that lethal use of force, and somebody dies, it's going to go in front of a grand jury. We
Exactly.
understand that.
Right.
I think that the push right now is, especially from the left-leaning, and I use that term, Democratic, however you want to put it, DA or district attorney's offices, prosecuting agencies, whatever. If they are left-leaning, they are more apt to go after that person. Instead of letting the process work out, it's going to go in front of a grand jury.
They're more apt to go ahead. They're more apt to go ahead and make an arrest
than letting the grand jury decide.
Yeah, we can we'll get into this on another podcast.
Yeah.
During my 2 terms as sheriff, I had 4 justifiable homicides by civilians.
Oh, wow.
That I went to, and we'll talk. We'll have a Second Amendment podcast one day.
And we'll have a Second Amendment week, okay? Because that's going to be how long it's going to take.
We'll talk about those.
And
Those a little bit later on. What it's just like Shelby was just saying here a second ago, but it's just like I say, when you go right back to the root of the problem, it's all good versus evil, all God versus Satan, or Satan versus God. God's not against. He's not competing with Satan. That's for sure. But it all goes back to good versus evil.
right, yeah, and it's like you said, it's not a competition. There is no back and forth.
Right. Yeah.
It's that Satan's trying to do everything he can. He's going to lose. He's losing, but he's doing everything he can. We're seeing the effects of all of it. But in all these things and everything we just talked about, God is ultimately, his providence will reign.
Yep.
He is sovereign. He is in control. Like he knows what's going on. Mm-hmm. It's all in his hands.
And he uses bad leaders. He uses evil leaders and bad actors for, I'm not going to say for good, but for his purpose.
Fulfillment of his plan.
Yes,
Yeah.
It's all part of his purpose and his plan and his kingdom.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't think we realize that he is using bad leaders. And you look back through biblical history and through just world history in general, and there have been many evil leaders that have been in place, and everybody's like, why did God let Hitler exist?
Yeah.
Why did God let somebody else exists, Pol Pot, or Idi Amin, or Noriega, or any of those exist, but we may not understand it. But there's a reason.
That's right.
Behind it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those that love Him,
Yeah,
all suffering, all persecution, all the things we must endure will work out for our good for those that love Him. Right?
I truly believe. I mean, we in the United States right now, I'll just say, we've got some really bad leadership, some really terrible leadership, not only at the national level, but at the state level and the local level also. We've got some very terrible leadership in this nation, some evil leadership, some very irresponsible leadership. And I truly believe that God is using those terrible, evil leaders to bring the United States back on their knees again. He's punishing us. I mean, I do believe we're being punished by leaders. I'm not talking about Christians, because Christians are not generally, I don't believe, are punished for their sins as long as they're repentant of those sins. But as a nation, I believe we're being punished with terrible, evil leadership because of the way we've acted in the last umpteen years now.
I think we have a twofold thing there. I think you're right. We are being punished. We're being held accountable for the things that we've allowed to happen, all right, as a people. But there's also the other side of that coin. I think God is using the bad actors, the bad leaders, to wake up this country. I've said this many times. My son's generation, my 7-year-old son's generation, they have said that it's going to be the next most patriotic. It's going to be the most patriotic generation to ever have been in the United States. And I think it's because they're being woke up right now. They're not woke.
Right.
Understand that they're not woke.
Right.
But they're waking up. There's a difference.
To the truth.
Yeah, they're waking up to the truth.
Also, we have to understand and remember that the Bible already tells us what's going to happen.
Right.
We already know what's going to happen. The evil leadership that you were just talking about, they don't realize they've already lost.
No.
That, they have no concept of that at all.
Right.
So they continue doing what they're doing.
Whether they're non-believers or non-Christians, it's just like we were talking about Israel the other day. You've got Israelis, Hebrews, Jewish people there that don't believe in Jesus Christ as the Messiah. They might not believe in the prophecy. They don't even realize what role that they're taking, that they're in right now in prophecy. And it's like I said the other day, the Bible is the only book that has ever been written that is both history and prophecy in the same book.
And let me add, we have no clue what role America plays in the end time.
It's not
there's not
mentioned.
even a correlation that we can make to a symbolic version of America in the Bible.
Absolutely not.
But
so we have no clue.
But it also does not indicate which side you're on.
That's right.
America's side,
Yeah, no, it doesn't at all. And so that's the thing to remember. And here's the main point I think I try to make whenever I'm preaching, and I think whenever we're talking about these kinds of things, is we all have the capacity for evil. Evil is always right in front of us, and it's always on our doorstep. We all have the ability to do the most heinous evil thing imaginable right in front of us. The difference is are we allowing ourselves to rule, or are we allowing God to rule? Because when we allow ourselves to rule, that's when that capacity, that potential goes up for us to do what is evil versus what is good. And so in everything we do, we have to put him first. No matter what it is, he's got to be the number one thing above all things in our lives in order for good to be.
Well, we're going to Shelby, we appreciate you joining us today. Shelby just happened to come in. He fell into this trap that we had set. we didn't actually know Shelby was coming today. He just walked in the door and was like, "Hey, there's Shelby," and then we talked about it, and then we grabbed him. But we appreciate your time today. We want to get you back with your wife and enjoy a cup of coffee and something to eat here at the stockyard. But we sure do appreciate you, brother, stopping by. And
good to be here.
Hey, we'll get with you again, and we'll get you back on again.
All right.
If you're up for it.
Yeah. I think Shelby's up for it. Shelby's the kind of guy that's not going to pull any punches. And
absolutely.
He's, whatever comes out of his mouth is going to be something that, number one, is the truth. Number two, something he believes in. And three, it's going to be a calculated thought. It's not going to be something that he doesn't truly believe in and hasn't thought about too. So, but, man, brother, we appreciate you coming by. It was great to see you again.
Thank you, Shelby. I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely.